All right. Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining us today. This webinar is part of our monthly Wednesday webinar series and is brought to you by Action for Healthy Kids. My name is Jocelyn Toney, and I am the field coordinator for Action for Healthy Kids. Joining me today is my coworker, Heidi Milby, who is the school program manager here at Action for Healthy Kids. Heidi will be helping to answer questions that you might have throughout the webinar. Let's just review some logistics before we get started. Once you've linked in, you'll see a control panel, usually on your right side of the screen. You can use your telephone or speakers to listen to the presentation, but everyone will be muted just to avoid static and background interference. There's a dialog box at the bottom of your control panel. You can type questions into the dialog box as we're going along, and we'll try to get them answered later in the presentation or via email following the webinar. The webinar is being recorded, and links to the recording and handouts will be sent to you guys in about 2 to 3 business days after the webinar. So let's get started. First, I'd like to give you guys a little bit of background on Action for Healthy Kids. Action for Healthy Kids fights childhood obesity, undernourishment, and physical inactivity by helping schools become healthier places. We are moms, dads, teachers, students, school and community leaders, and school wellness experts who have banded together to create healthier learning environments for our children. We believe that everyone has a part to play in ending the nation's childhood obesity epidemic, and our programs, tools, and resources really make that possible. We were founded in 2002 by former Surgeon General David Satcher. Today we have more than 90,000 members. We also partner with dozens of professional associations, government agencies, and corporations at the national and local level. At Action for Healthy Kids, we help our members and supporters learn about the issues, take action in their schools, and work to transform their school cultures. So our goals for today's webinar include you walking away understanding the importance of physical activity in schools and its connection to learning. We'll also share information on why active indoor recess can be so important. You will gather some ideas and strategies on how to take action to integrate indoor recess into your school and schedule, and then transform your school culture for the long term by really integrating indoor recess school-wide to ensure every kid in your school is healthy and ready to learn. So the CDC recommends that 60 minutes of daily moderate to vigorous physical activity for school-aged children, and experts recommend that half of this, so 30 minutes a day, be provided by schools. Research shows that physical activity has a positive impact on academic achievement. It leads to more focused classroom behaviors like concentration and memory, and it is related to improved mathematics, reading, and writing test scores. Physical activity is a fuel for the brain, not just a fuel for the body. Look at what movement does for the brain. It increases learning ability, attentiveness, the level of engagement. It also decreases behavioral issues and decreases absenteeism. Physical activity is anything that gets your body moving, so walking, biking, sports, dance, even household cleaning. In addition to physical education classes, schools can provide physical activity time at recess with fitness breaks throughout the school day, classroom learning that incorporates physical activity, before and after school programming, field trips that include physical activity, and by establishing walk or bike to school programs. All these programs can be added up to make your school's comprehensive school physical activity plan. Shape America recommends that schools provide 20 minutes of recess per day, yet up to 40% of U.S. school districts have reduced or eliminated recess in order to free up more time for core academics and 1 in 4 elementary schools no longer provides recess to all grades. Research has shown that recess helps students to focus and learn better, so we know that scaling it back comes to a cost to learning. Now that we understand the benefits of recess and the importance of physical activity for our students, we shouldn't let frightful weather hold us back. To have an effective indoor recess program, start with some of the following tips. First, don't wait to plan for indoor recess until the weather goes south. Talk with school administrators, teachers, recess providers, and parents at the beginning of the school year to create a plan for active indoor recess. Make sure those who facilitate indoor recess understand the importance of daily physical activity for kids and how it impacts learning. Second, plan to have enough trained adults on hand to enforce safety rules and prevent aggressive bullying behavior. Staffing can be one of the biggest barriers to implementing structured recess. Parents can volunteer to lead activities and supervise at recess. Schools can always use help in this area. Make sure parent volunteers receive training either from the school staff or other experts in the field. Another tip includes enough space, facilities, and equipment. So review your school schedule to assess available space. Is the gym available for any portion of recess? What about the cafeteria or the auditorium? Is there any empty classroom? Is there a spacious hallway where your students could run relays or jump rope? And lastly, does your school lack space for indoor recess? A tip is to partner up with local gyms, YMCAs, and fitness studios with a short walking distance of your school to see if space is available for students to utilize 1 or 2 days per week. Or ask if they have an instructor who would be willing to donate time to visit the school once per month for a special fitness class during recess. Indoor recess often takes place in confined spaces. When increasing activity during indoor recess, having structured activities can help to ensure a safe environment and minimize disruption to other classes. This is also called structured activity, which is a planned and actively supervised recess period where students engage in organized play or games that emphasize turn-taking, helpfulness, rule following, and emotional control. Each game or activity has preset rules by which the entire school population abides. Sometimes older students are trained to help lead activities for younger students. The benefits of active recess include reduced bullying, better behavior, and easier transition from recess to learning. The goal is to get all students moving and engaged while minimizing disruption to other classes. Let's jump in to discussing some ideas for indoor recess that you can take back with your school, to your school. I'll first talk about a few ideas for equipment that could be used during your indoor recess. Then I'll share a few ideas for games and activities that can be implemented with minimal equipment. So first, when purchasing equipment for indoor recess, strive for soft or foam balls and other equipment to minimize injuries. Fleece balls are also a really great alternative. Many of these items are usually easy to find, particularly from major physical education vendors. Some equipment ideas may include movement dice. You can either purchase large dice, like these shown in the photo on your slide, or use regular dice for this activity. Students pick an activity such as jumping jacks, then they roll the dice, and whatever number appears on the dice is the number of jumping jacks that they must do. Another option is juggling scarves. They're light and easy to use in many settings. They keep those arms moving. Next, we have classroom yoga cards. Considering purchasing a set of classroom yoga cards, pick a card and do the yoga move with a group of students. Once students get good at it, then they can lead the moves themselves. Lastly is hot spot exercise sets. which can be purchased online or through physical education vendors. Each set typically contains 12 spots that have an exercise on them. These spots can be used to set up physical activity stations. They have a variety of exercises such as cardio, resistance training, and yoga. You can also consider creating an indoor recess bags for each grade level or for lower elementary and upper elementary. This is a great way to maintain equipment and ensure that indoor recess runs smoothly. Later in the webinar today, we'll discuss the success of a school in Chicago, Illinois, who created 3 different indoor recess bags, a primary, intermediate, and junior high, and then trained recess facilitators on how to use them. There's also the option to promote an imagination playground. This is an innovative playground equipment system that transforms any space into a play space that encourages learning, social development, movement, and above all, fun. Imagination Playground contains a wide variety of what's called loose parts, including cubes, bricks, curves, and cylinders. They have holes and shapes that fit together in ways that encourage continued play. You can see 2 photos on the screen to your right. Indoor recess can be active, regardless of space or equipment constraints. Let's take some time to talk through examples of fun, active indoor recess ideas that require minimal equipment. So first, you can organize a year-round walking club. Walking is an activity that is easy and accessible to most students, staff, and parents. Host an extra walking club day during indoor recess for students to track more steps. Walking clubs can be held in the hallways or a large room such as a gym. Make it more fun by loaning pedometers to participating students to help them track their steps, or allow students to walk with their headphones to listen to music. Another idea is trying chairless musical chairs. Who says you can't use this party staple during indoor recess? Minimize the chance of small accidents in the disruption to your desk arrangement by playing a chairless version of the game. Provide students with dot markers or small pieces of construction paper to lay on the floor to serve as their chair. Keep kids safe while they're moving. Another idea is called Pass It On Uno style. Using the card game Uno, determine an action for each Uno card color. For example, blue means jump to the sky, red means run in place, and so on. Each student starts with a card, identifies the color on it, and performs an activity that corresponds to the color for around 10 to 15 seconds. Then a teacher or facilitator will say, pass it on, and the student will pass their card to their right. You can use this idea to teach different languages too. Next, we have movement Jenga. This activity uses the game Jenga. You can write physical activities on each Jenga block. When a child successfully moves or removes a block, they lead the activity that's written on the block, with the entire group participating. Next, we have a great resource called Sign Up for Go Noodle. The resource is called Go Noodle, which provides free physical activity videos. You can easily project videos in your classroom or on a wall in the gym for quick and fun indoor recess. They even provide yoga, stretching, dancing, and Zumba too. Next, and the last one on this slide, is considering doing a series of brain breaks and energizers. You can check out Action Healthy Kids Brain Breaks, Instant Recess, and Energizers activities in Step 4 of the Game On program. We will be discussing more about Game On in the resource section of the webinar in a few minutes. Some other ideas to continue to include or consider would be to use Fun music videos that have step-by-step movements for students to follow along to. Examples include the Sid Shuffle, with Sid from Ice Age leading the physical activity, or dancing to Ghostbusters. Another option is playing Wax Museum by appointing one person as the guard, and when his or her back is turned, students can move around and dance. Once the guard turns around, all the students have to freeze. If the guard catches you moving, you're out. The game requires them to be relatively quiet too, which can be a benefit. On your screen, you will see a list of active indoor recess ideas that have come from Action for Healthy Kids social media pages. Follow our Pinterest boards, Facebook, or Twitter to stay up to date on new ideas. A few ideas that I found just from Pinterest include the following. Practicing animal yoga with your students, so teachers can call out specific animals that students can demonstrate, such as snake pose, frog pose, or hedgehog pose. Consider building physical activity cues by cutting 6 squares of paper. Ask your students to write their favorite activity on each square. Tape the squares together using clear packing tape and then stuff in a few pieces of crumpled newspaper to give it more stability. Then you can let your students roll their cubes for some more moving and grooving fun. Let your students race down the hallways. This would be a fun one for them, knowing that typically this is something they're not allowed to do. You can make it even more fun and tape up a piece of paper or party streamer for them to burst through, or create a relay down the hallway to include more students. You can also have an indoor snowball fight by simply crumpling up pieces of paper or buy a fun snowball fight kit. There's also the option for balloon paddle ball. All that's needed is 2 paper plates, 2 wooden sticks, and a balloon to act as the ball. Tape 1 stick to a paper plate to act as your paddle. Then you can challenge your students to keep the balloon off the ground or play badminton or volleyball. Finally, the last suggestion that I found on Pinterest was playing 4 corners. First, you must determine which each corner represents. So this is a great way to incorporate learning as well, such as colors and numbers. Choose a person to act as the counter. The counter stands in the circle and closes his or her eyes and counts out loud to 10, while everyone else runs around and chooses which corner to stand in. When the counter calls out 10, whatever corner the runners are closest to is the corner that they must stay in. Next, the counter calls out the name of the corner. So if you're using the colors, you might call out orange, which might be associated with running in place. So make sure that your counter's eyes are still closed. Anyone in that corner is out. They can do the physical activity. And then once it gets down to 4 people, everyone must pick a separate corner. The person chosen by the counter is actually the winner at the end. So I'm going to pause here really quick and just check in with Heidi to see if there's any questions.
No questions yet. So as a reminder, as Jocelyn mentioned in the beginning, if you have any questions, go ahead and enter them into the questions box. I see there's a couple of folks with their hands raised. Unfortunately, since everyone is muted, we won't be able to address questions that way. So make sure you enter them into the question box.
Great. Perfect. So now we will move into some tips so we can utilize your school's resources. First, does your school have a teacher or parent that is a fitness instructor and who would be willing to come in and host a fitness class? Definitely ask around. This is a great way to spice up your indoor recess. Another idea is to recruit older student leaders to lead indoor recess activities. Student leaders can serve as great role models for their peers and younger students to be physically active. You can also get student input. What would they like to do during their indoor recess to keep them active? And then lastly, take some time at the beginning of indoor recess periods to establish indoor recess structure and routines. This will help make sure all students are safe, active, and not disturbing other classes. Another tip is to make your program inclusive. All children are entitled to quality physical education and physical activity opportunities. Special consideration should be given to those who with particular physical activity needs and who are at risk for sedentary lifestyles. Make your recess fitness breaks before and after school clubs and programs inclusive so that children with special needs and typically developing children can participate side by side. Assess the ability needs of your students. Some may need few adaptations while others may require substantial assistance from peer helpers or adults. Most activities can be modified or adapted to ensure that all students can join in the experience and reap the benefits. Engaging volunteers to help your indoor recess and recess programs flourish. Regardless of the actual tasks that they do, all volunteers have at least one thing in common. The time, energy, and resources they bring can be critically important for a successful outcome. Volunteers bring a lot of value to the table. Advantages of engaging volunteers include, first, many volunteers have specialized knowledge or skills that can be useful to complement or enhance your efforts. Volunteers can provide a new and different perspective and bring in fresh energy. Volunteers can provide a lasting impact and contribution. The more people that get involved, the easier it becomes to gain additional support for your work. And finally, volunteers save money and can do a lot of good work for little to no cost. Because of the enormous amount of help potentially available from volunteers, an important question to ask is, how can we best tap into this resource? Volunteers typically have a motivation for getting involved, so keep these motivations in mind when you are recruiting for volunteers. People might volunteer because it meets their personal needs, they want to share their expert skills or knowledge, or maybe want to gain additional professional experience. People volunteer because of friendships or social aspects and because they have the time and availability to do so. When one person is involved, ask them to bring another friend next time to get more volunteers engaged. And the last motivation is the strongest level of commitment. People volunteer because they have a passion for the cause, organization, and work needs to be done. It's important to keep all of these factors in mind when looking to involve or strengthen your volunteer engagement in your indoor recess. Who is in your network that has skills or interests that complement your needs? I really suggest that you brainstorm ways to engage parents, community members, organizations, or businesses to volunteer. And how about indoor recess for secondary students? On your screen are two success stories that provide examples and tips for promoting indoor recess for secondary students. The first one is Panther Creek High School from North Carolina. They offer Smart Lunch, which is an extended single lunch period. So students spend half their time eating lunch and half their time participating in a variety of activities, including rotating sports activities that are set up in the gym. You could also include Dance Dance Revolution, Wii Fit, yoga, Pilates, Taekwondo, or exercise videos. Or, like Bon Lin in Chicago, create indoor recess grab bags. Include materials such as jump ropes, softballs, fitness DVDs, movement dice, and yoga cards like we discussed, so that teachers have easy access to equipment. To make sure teachers and staff were confident and comfortable in using the equipment, the PE teacher from Chicago hosted a professional development session for all recess staff to teach them about the importance of keeping kids active, demonstrate how to use the materials in the resource kit so they felt comfortable, and then review physical activities that work well in their spaces. I encourage you guys to take a look at these. They'll be sent out in the follow-up email. And now let's talk through a few indoor recess resources to help you guys get started. Check out Peaceful Playgrounds. They provide several resources for indoor recess games in their rainy and snowy indoor recess toolkit. Also available is Playworks. They offer trainings and a free online playbook of games and activities. Or JAM, which is also known as Just a Minute Program, provides resources that offer simple, fun, energetic fitness routines and healthier living tips that people of all ages and abilities can confidently participate in and use. Or another idea would be to apply for school grants for healthy kids to purchase equipment and materials to host indoor active recess. And that can be found on the Action for Healthy Kids website. Many of these ideas from this webinar actually came from Action for Healthy Kids' Game On program. Game On is free and easy to use. It includes more than 70 fun and easy to implement activity ideas that focus on two categories: eating better and moving more. These activities are organized by room within the school building as pictured in the blueprint on your screen, so it's really easy to search for ideas. For example, if you're a teacher looking for an idea to move more with your students, click on the classroom on the blueprint, and you'll be directed to Game On activities intended to improve nutrition and physical activity in the classroom. Many activities also provide ways to be inclusive with all students and how to engage volunteers. The Game On program features an active indoor recess activity, as well as resources for brain breaks, instant recess, and energizers. Again, the link will be shared in the follow-up materials. We are always updating with new resources, so I really encourage you to check back frequently. And the last resource that I have is Let's Move Active Schools, which is a wonderful resource for increasing physical activity in schools. It's a comprehensive program that empowers PE teachers, classroom teachers, principals, administrators, and parents to create active environments that enable all students to get moving and reach their full potential. And so, if we go on, you will see that we also continually offer resources on our social media pages. So I encourage you to follow us on whatever form of social media you use, whether that's Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Pinterest, Flickr, and or YouTube. So I'll pause there again and ask Heidi if we have any additional questions that might have come in.
Sure. So we've had a few questions that have come in. The first one, the question is, where can we purchase materials mentioned? Do you have a vendor list? And Jocelyn, I can start with that, and feel free to add. We don't have a vendor list. Most often we do work, we order materials from U.S. Games. However, we don't endorse a particular vendor. I know there's other vendors like Gopher Sports and Flag House Sports that would offer similar items as well. So I would recommend just doing a Google search, physical education vendors, or check to see if your district purchases from a particular vendor, and then purchase materials from that vendor. Jocelyn, do you have anything to add?
No, I think you covered it. Thank you.
Okay, and then we had a comment coming from Carrie that just suggested that with elimination games, based on her experience, to provide opportunities for students to stay active even if they are eliminated. So that's a great suggestion, and a great thing to keep in mind is not to have students sitting around or standing even if they are eliminated from an elimination game. So thanks, Carrie, for that feedback.
Great point.
And then we have a couple of other questions. We may not be able to get to all questions, so certainly if we can't answer them, we'll follow up with you via email. We had one related question: when will the Action for Healthy Kids grants be available for the 16-17 school year? Great news, those will become available in early February. So you all, as having participated in this webinar, will receive information about those grants. Typically, we do offer grants for physical activity that could be used to support indoor recess activities. And then 2 quick questions, and Jocelyn, I'll let you answer these. One is a request to please explain the 4-corner activity again.
Oh, sure. So basically, you pick 4, I guess, you determine what you would prefer to have each corner represent, whether that be some type of physical activity station. So one corner could be jumping jacks, one corner could be running in place, and then there's a counter in the center of the room who has their eyes closed, who counts up to 10. Everyone is running in all different directions, basically, and then ends in one corner. Once the counter gets to 10, after that moment, they can pick a corner. The counter will pick a corner, and whoever is picked ends up being out and has to do the physical activity. And then once it gets down to 4 people, each person has to pick a separate corner, and then the counter will pick a corner, and whoever corner is picked is the winner. But as was mentioned, Carrie, I think it was, to keep those kids that did get out active, maybe they could, I guess, join in on the physical activity once that each time someone gets out, they can join in on it. Any other questions, Heidi?
Great, thanks. Just one more quick one we'll address, and then as I mentioned, the others we can address in a follow-up email to the individuals who asked them. This question is, how much does it typically cost for one of the indoor recess kits? And I can answer based on the Van Launay success story that Jocelyn had mentioned. Their kits, and they used $300 to put together one kit for primary, one for intermediate, and one for their junior high. So this we've seen through our work nationally. This varies. Schools can put together kits for nothing, really, and just using donated materials or materials that volunteers create, or they can, compile kits with equipment that, could range up to 500, 1,000, even more. So I think it's flexible, and if you need additional assistance on that, the Game On email is listed on your screen. Please feel free to reach out to us via that email, and we're happy to help brainstorm for your particular situation.
Yeah, and with that, I've actually seen some schools create kind of a physical activity wish list, and sometimes people will donate towards those kits. So that's also a good idea. Okay, with that being the last question, just wanted to remind you that everything will be sent out in 2 to 3 business days. And if you have any questions, so please send it to Game On. So I guess with that, this concludes our Wellness Wednesday webinar. So thank you so much, and have a great day.